Hi, I'm Patrick Brandt, and I like spaceships. Well, anything that flies, really. Especially if it has wings. Wings are cool. But the point is, I like spaceships, and I also like Hermitcraft, so I thought it would be a really cool idea to design spaceships based on some of the people on Hermitcraft, specifically the 4 hermits that I watch regularly as of when I started working on this video. The level of completeness that I'm going for is basically just a finished exterior with maybe 1 or 2 moving parts. I'm not going to bother with making fully rigged landing gear, boarding ramps and whatnot just at the moment, although I do plan to add these things in the future, so that's something to keep an eye out for. What I'm not currently planning to do is make a full interior for each of the ships. I am nowhere near confident enough in my interior design capabilities to commit to that for a video. That being said, I am really looking forward to seeing how these turn out. So let's get the ball rolling with the first hermit on my list. Krian's point of view of Hermitcraft Season 8 was basically my introduction to Hermitcraft. I had seen bits and pieces several years prior by glancing over whatever my siblings were watching, but I didn't even regularly watch YouTube videos myself until 2020. Anyway, when Grian uploaded his first episode of Season 8, I decided to give it a watch because Hermitcraft seemed interesting, and that's how I watched all of Season 8 from Grian's perspective. I watched a fair amount of Season 9 solely from Grian's perspective too, until a certain incident took place. Going into this, I knew I wanted to do a fairly unconventional, chaotic sort of design to suit Grian's cheeky personality. I wanted it to be a tall, narrow design, given his affinity for building tall bases. And I wanted it to have a good weapon loadout to reflect his PvP skills, and also a way to airdrop large quantities of eggs on the perimeter. I also wanted to incorporate some in-jokes, like the chest monster, by just bolting shipping containers onto the hull for cargo space, and the whole back of the base thing by designing it chiefly from one angle, the front. However, I soon realized that, unlike Grian, I have great difficulty coming up with a design I like from just one angle, so I gave up. I just gave up. It wasn't working, none of the designs were what I wanted, so I gave up. Then I decided to turn the letter G into a spaceship, keeping in mind the qualities I wanted it to have, and I absolutely loved it. And so, without further ado, it's time for a time lapse. And we are done. This spaceship took a bit over 7 hours to complete, which is actually not all that long, all things considered. Then again, I did have a very vivid idea of what I wanted to make here. As you can see, I've added these tall, narrow headlights to make the cockpit somewhat resemble Grian's face, and I've done this sort of thing in multiple places across the body of the ship. At the back of the detachable cockpit pod, we have this amazing waffle, which I am really happy with, and we also have this panel, which could be a boarding ramp in the future. Moving further back, we have two shipping containers, sort of half hidden behind this hull plating, which is only really in the front of the ship, and then we have these big powerful engines at the back here, making this a very fast and I dare say very nimble spaceship. Another thing you'll notice is these compartments at the top and bottom here. They don't open right now, but I do plan to make them openable in the future. And then they will be perfect for dropping large quantities of eggs and or bombs onto whatever or whoever is unfortunate enough to be underneath. Speaking of causing damage, we have at the front here this large double laser cannon, which is on a swivel so it can keep on target regardless of how much the ship is moving around. And we also have these claw-like prongs that extend forwards here. These are based on the legs of the Entity in Season 9, and they could be quite useful for skewering other small ships like a falling stalactite. All in all, this is a very cool and unique design, perfect for getting in and out of tight situations very quickly, performing all manner of shenanigans and doing quite a lot of damage if need be. But with all that said, it is time to move on to the next Hermit on my list. I was quite familiar with Mumbo's Redstone videos before I first started watching Hermitcraft, but it wasn't until he returned from his long break in Season 9 that I started watching his Hermitcraft videos. And I'm glad I didn't wait longer, because then I would have completely missed this absolute gem.
Anyway, let's talk this through. Oh gosh! Goodness gracious, who are you? What is going on? This is the least calm room I've ever seen in my entire life. What?
I wanted Mumbo's spaceship to be something more conventional, something along the lines of the private jet he pranked Grian with in Season 8. So I started with this design, which is something between a private jet and an SR-71, then decided I wanted something more along the lines of his Season 9 base, making sure to allow room for a moustache and a couple of vault doors. And I really liked this design right off the bat, so I got straight to work. And that is Mumbo Jumbo's luxury spaceplane finished. This one took significantly longer than I expected, a bit over 8.5 hours of work, but it ended up being spread out over nearly a month, as opposed to Grian's ship, which I got done in a week. I think that's because I got the overall shape done almost immediately, and so everything else from then on felt like I wasn't making much progress for the time I was putting in, which didn't really help my motivation, and then the fact that I was going slower because of that didn't help either. Anyway, I kept at it, and I did manage to put together something pretty decent. This is very much a high-end, bespoke spacecraft made with expensive materials and custom styling. At the front, we have this distinctive moustache and headlights arrangement, taking a bit of inspiration from Grumbot, which possibly looks a bit daft, but also rather endearing, and I think that suits Mumbo very well. Moving down the fuselage, we have two lovely vault doors, which I am absolutely chuffed to bits with. Is that a bit on the nose? I feel like I'm being a bit on the nose there. Anyway, we have these vault doors, and then these sleek, futuristic engines with added vertical takeoff and landing capability. And those are the landing gear pods just next to them. I reckon that while not as quick off the line as Grian's ship, this spaceship would be significantly more efficient and have a smoother ride. These budgies are being very noisy. I played around with the idea of putting some sort of EMP weapon on the underside here, or maybe on the back here, as a reference to Mumbo's end crystal shenanigans in Last Life. But I couldn't quite figure out how to pull it off, and I eventually decided to leave it as is for now. I might come back to it once I get around to doing the smaller moving parts on these ships. Overall, I am really happy with this ship. It is a really cool high-end design, and the mustachioed face on the front gives it a really friendly and lovable character. Look at it! That being said, it is now time to move on to our next Hermit, so let's do that. I started watching Scar's Hermitcraft videos when he and Grian accidentally blew up a very complicated piece of mining equipment in Season 9, and I ended up finding his videos quite heartwarming. In particular, his impressive building skills contrasted with his moments of being hilariously bad at the game I'd found resonated with my own experiences in Minecraft as well as in real life to some extent. So, as his skills improved, I found that rather encouraging for myself as well. Anyway, I was happy to finally hop aboard the Scar train, so to speak. For Scar's spaceship, I wanted something fantastical with a certain charm to it, but also a good amount of destructive potential as well. I started by drawing his spaceship from the Season 8 finale from memory. I also toyed with the idea of a hot guy starfighter before coming up with this design, which I really liked. Then I realized this was the perfect opportunity to make a Star Wars design, and so I drew up a Star Wars-y alternative, and then decided to go for a mix of the two. So with that out of the way, it's time for Superfast 3D modeling mode. That really doesn't have the same ring to it, but I'm gonna commit to the bit, so let's go! super fast 3D modeling mode, and I am actually quite disappointed with how this turned out, but I am going to give it some time and come back later and see how I feel about this.
1 week later.
Okay, I see what I need to do now, and boom! There we go. Much better. Now that is one amazing starship. That little revamp that we did there took, I think, about 2 hours, which brings our total time spent working on this to over 10 hours. I was really happy with the overall shape after the first hour or so, but I just had a lot of trouble figuring out the details. But anyway, here we are. This is a bit of a bigger ship compared to the last two, and that is because this is a touring vessel. Yes, this starship takes people on scenic tours across the galaxy. We have space for a boarding ramp here and large windows for the passenger cabin to let in lots of natural light. We also have these massive laser cannons up here on these folding wings, which give the whole ship a really adventurous feel. In the sci-fi universe that I've made to house all my different spaceships, this design harks back to the distant past, before the dawn of interstellar travel. Also, when you have someone who can go from this...
As we tour the server, please keep your hands and arms inside of the camel at all times. Yeah. We're just the best of friends. Hello, Scott. We're just talking about how much we're best friends.
To this...
Hello, Etho! This is for you telling B-dubs you're my favorite. Oh! Okay, impulse is out. Come on, feel the pain, dogs. Come on. There we go.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Oh, there was a zombie back there.
You need a ship that can accommodate both of those things. And this ship is designed to do just that. Look, we even have a couple of torpedoes tucked away under the nose here, perfect for performing those flyby hit-and-run attacks, just like Hot Guy himself. Speaking of which, I'd imagine this ship has the highest atmospheric top speed out of all the spaceships in this video, with its streamlined shape and powerful engines. This is a really cool design, and I am really happy with it. But now it's time to move on to our final Hermit. When Grian and Scar accidentally blew up Doc's tunnel vor, I wanted to see what it looked like from Doc's perspective. And so I watched his video and then discovered that I really enjoyed watching this epic German goat man bend the fundamental mechanics of the game to his will and do things that I had not imagined being possible in Minecraft. Anyway, I watched every episode he made since then, and it has been great. For this ship, I started with a quick Google search and found these two images, and from there I decided I wanted to reference Doc's hive mind by designing a big mothership with something like the goat skull from the perimeter in the middle and a spinning ring around the outside that would do something cool, I wasn't sure what as of yet. And then it would have a bunch of smaller goat spacecraft like this one at its disposal. I did have a bit of trouble deciding what to do with the horns on the mothership, but I eventually came up with a general outline that I really liked, and then it was time to start modeling. We are done. I actually procrastinated for a long time after the first session of modeling and focused on other things for a while until I found out that Hermitcraft Season 10 was starting in just a couple of days. So then I wanted to get this video out as soon as possible, and I grinded it out for 2 to 3 hours at a time, and now after just over 8.5 hours of work, I have something that I am quite pleased with. I really like how these smaller goat spacecraft turned out. I got my hands on the Material Works add-on from Blender Bros, and so I've been working with basically a whole new set of materials, which is cool. The ends of the horns house the landing gear for this craft, and at the back between the engines here we have the door, which is where it would dock inside the mothership. Underneath at the moment we have a mining laser setup that is good for blasting holes in the ground, but these things could also potentially be kitted out for assembling structures and all sorts of things as well. The GOAT mothership is quite a lot bigger than most of the spaceships that I design, but I am still really happy with it. I really like the shape of the lower section here with these panels that will cover the pod bays that the smaller crafts dock in. And from the top, it kind of looks a bit like Doc's channel logo, as well as like the goat symbol I was going for. I put a lot of engines on this side because throughout the entire design process I figured it would move like this, but I'm still not entirely sure if that's the best place to put them, because I realized I could have put them on this side, have it move like this, and that might actually make a little bit more sense. That being said, I'm not sure if that's as important as it would otherwise be, because this thing can teleport. Yep, that's the physics-breaking thing I decided the spinning rings would be used for. This spaceship straight up teleports between star systems, which is really unique for the universe it's in, where interstellar travel is only really achievable with these massive ships that can take weeks or even months to warp between star systems. And so this technology is many centuries ahead of its time in that world. There isn't really as much of a focus here on combat like with Grian and Scar's ships, but that is because the idea is that if you want to take on an opponent, you aren't going to wait for them to show up. This vessel has really good sensor systems in the horns and whatnot, and the smaller craft can also maybe form a sensor array, and then they can pinpoint which direction the enemy is in, and the mothership can use this massive weapon here to remove that direction. Or maybe remove a part of whatever place is next to where the enemy is, just to let them know, you don't mess with the goat. And then, of course, these three will not listen, and they will just do it anyway. Okay, that is it for this video. Let me know down in the comments which was your favorite spaceship from this video, and also let me know if there are any other Hermits or maybe Life series members that you would like to see me make spaceships for, or maybe something completely different that I can make spaceships out of. You never know. I don't think I've done anything quite like this before. I actually started working on this video in mid-October, when I didn't yet know that Hermitcraft Season 9 was coming to an end. And now it's February and Season 10 has officially begun. People are on episode 2 by the time I'm recording this, so yeah. I originally intended to do a spaceship a week and have the video done in a month, but I ended up losing a lot of momentum until right at the end with Doc's spaceship. I do still think I could potentially hammer out one of these kind of videos in a month, but only time will tell. In the meantime, I also have plans for a couple of actually music-related videos, which I think are going to be quite interesting. But until then, I'm Patrick Brandt, and I wish you all a lovely today and a better tomorrow. Bye! That's not the right hand signal for goodbye. Hang on. Bye!